we are back from our quick little break here and to jump back into the random bullshitting.
Love those things.
We were talking about S45.
Mhm.
No.
Yes.
In fact, we were talking about S30 and how it's the new 8CR, and you had a response to that.
Oh, yeah. My response was just ultimately when I'm sharpening a knife, I've talked about diminishing returns and the work you have to put into sharpening it compared to how long it holds its edge. And I think S30 still kicks ass and takes names for that category more than a D2, more than 8CR, like any of the Sandviks. Like, I still think it's kind of for the lower end budgety steels, I still think it's the best performance for the ease of sharpening, regardless of what people bitch about it. Harder to sharpen and they need a 35 or whatever it is. So.
The thing that I was going to say too was that S30 is not the new 8CR; it's the new 154 CM.
Yeah,
I think that's a more accurate description of it.
in a literal sense, if you consider what Benchmade did to their Griptilian lineup, it certainly is.
Yeah, Benchmade in particular has replaced everything. But I mean, Spyderco's still holding strong to their VG10. Like,
dude,
and Cold Steel slowly gripping away from Oz 8, but they can't let it go. There's something about it. They're like, no, 3 models at least. Like it's so.
And there's CRKT having an asthmatic fit in the corner.
Dude, I don't need a tie light in Oz 10, okay? I have
yes, you do. I would buy it.
I don't need another one.
Well, no, but CRKT is like Oz 8. It better be $150 like at least if we're putting that steel in it. Like,
yeah. And it goes back to age-old question of how good of a steel do you realistically need for your day-to-day life? And most people are going to be fine with 8CR. Most people are going to be fine with VG10. But I can't bring myself to buy those types of steels anymore and feel good about it. Like, can't be done.
Feel good about them.
No.
Yo, Jesus.
No. Look, okay, so I
feel dirty.
This knife. I bought the induction. It's a Kershaw knife. It's 8CR. I love the design for this thing. That's why I bought it. Purely as a novelty. There's no reason to like this blade more than any other blade I have, except for the ridiculously thin grind on it. But yeah, it's not a selling feature anymore. It's beyond a compromise. It's to the detriment of a design that you're using such a crappy steel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind sharpening steel. In fact, I would rather sharpen something that takes me longer to do, like S30 or above. But because of the trade-off, because of like what Dennis was saying, where you sharpen it and you don't have to sharpen it tomorrow. You don't have to sharpen it a week from now. It's months, unless you're doing something kind of crazy with your stuff. And also depending on how many knives you have in your collection and how quickly they rotate out. But like, I legitimately carried this thing, and you guys can confirm the fact that I carried my Anthem almost friggin' every day since the day I bought it for well over a year.
Yeah.
And it was the knife that I pulled out of my pocket to cut open boxes. It was the thing that stripped down cardboard. Whatever I needed to do with a knife, this was it 9 times out of 10. And it took me well over a year before I even thought about having to resharpen it.
He does live in downtown Calgary, so whatever he had to do with a knife,
Gotta walk by Crack Max every night,
I was gonna say I live a block away from Crack Max. Give me a break, guys. Sometimes you gotta defend yourself against coyotes.
Yeah, no joke.
We saw one today.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Devin saw one this morning that he says was potentially a fox or a wolf, which not knowing what of those 3 things it is scares me quite a bit. Like,
there's some major size differences, everything else aside.
Yeah, when the coyote did run across the road, he was like, "Oh, that's what I saw this morning."
Nice.
A fox or a wolf. It's like, those are
he
wildly
did say that. He did.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump in real quick and say Zinc CDC has wanted an Anthem for the longest time, and you should definitely get one.
They're nice.
Flip and all, it's worth the knife. It is a nice little knife. And as far as a Benchmade, and I have Benchmades that are super, super like smooth moving, but it takes nothing to open this or close this knife. It's fantastic.
The assembly for that axis lock makes me happy in so many ways. I would like to own one at some point.
As far as it's not as fancy as the Pleroma, as far as like getting your bearings in and out of the knife and stuff like that. But I've disassembled this knife and I've disassembled my Lion Steel, and this is a much better disassembly. They took thought into how they milled out the blade to fit the bearings and everything else that Lion Steel doesn't quite have the space for.
I absolutely love my 940s and the 940 platform, but I will admit that like the Anthem might be the nicest Benchmade that they've ever made. Like, and it had a Benchmade overprice to go with it that Paul was willing to pay, which was more expensive than the Sabenza, which is hypocrisy that you would pick one over top of the other. But here I am having incoming knives that have price points like
a Rhino over,
the
Pleroma. But I would say all three of those, the Pleroma, the Rhino, and this, all follow that same kind of category where they're competitors to the Sabenza in quality as well as materials and things like that. And in most cases, better materials as far as steel goes.
There also enters in a conversation about how tight of a tolerance do you need in a folding knife. I mean, for you to be happy with a folding knife, obviously, because there's different manufacturers doing different things, but I don't know. There's some cool stuff that some cool companies are doing out there with, it may not be as nicely made as this ARK, but damn if they're not cool knives. The Anthem is a good example of that. The Pleroma is an amazing example of that.
Fantastic. Really quick, too, given he's made a comment in the in chat that we're not going to touch yet, but we're going to get back to that later on. It's part of the questions that we have answered.
All right.
Fair enough. So before the break there, we were kind of segueing through the S30 series up into the S45.
Yeah.
And starting to talk about that specifically on the new Benchmade Meat Crafter that's coming out. Or has just come out.
The more I look at that knife, the more I'm getting excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the major things, and it dabbles back to before we took a break there, is edge geometry in particular. Now, they're claiming 14 degrees per side as far as edge geometry. And something major that I learned about just recently about S45, because it's a new steel and we're still all just like in the touchy-feely getting to know each other phase, is that S45 apparently is supposed to be much more reliable at a higher Rockwell and can push the limits and still be stable by still having a similar performance to a S30 or an S35.
I was going to say, it competes against both those guys for their...
okay. So we may see some more interesting geometry being produced for that steel.
It reminds me, it's reminiscent of Phil Wilson with his S90 stuff from Spyderco and how thin those blades were and how scalpely you can make them. And I think that's what Benchmade is trying to do here with the Meat Crafter, is they're trying to get this Phil Wilson-y boning knife, like meat processing, whatever, but with a way sexier handle. That's for sure.
So nice looking.
It's a pretty looking knife.
Before we get into the handle, though, what you're talking about there with that 14 degrees per side, I forget exactly what the term is they use for it, but it's a trademarked thing that they're talking about with that 14 degrees aside. So I wonder if it's a machine they're pulling it through, not like a pull-through sharpener or anything, but like if it's a machine that's putting that 14 degree sides on to keep it trademarked?
No, you know what I mean? Maybe, but that also, as soon as you said that, leads me to believe that they're going to come out with a Meat Crafter, Meat Eater specific sharpener that is going to have some sort of set angles to go with it. Because if the angles themselves are trademarked, that means things to come. For sure that does.
Yeah.
like the writing is huge on the wall with that one.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden, I come out with this exclusive angle sharpening, blah blah blah, that can do all the meat eater stuff. That's clever. That's clever.
Well, and they already have the field sharpener, right? So having a meat eater branded field sharpener, maybe in like a glowing orange or something like that, could be taken out into the bush, and you're guaranteed you're not going to lose it. Mm-hmm. Especially if you add in the fact that it's got the broadhead wrenches on the inside. It's kind of a no-brainer, really.
Yeah.
I wonder what the premium is going to be for a Steve Ranella version of a work sharp.
Yeah.
Add an extra $60. Yeah.
I was going to say, what are the regular ones right now?
The Benchmade ones are, I don't know, like 60 on Benchmade's website.
Okay.
Like MSRP or something. Yeah. I'm not 100%
75, $80. I wouldn't be surprised by.
Yeah,
US.
Canadian for sure. But no. That's a very interesting thing that it's trademarked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What aspect of it exactly is trademarked?
To be honest, I don't know. But if you go to the Benchmade website and you're looking at the description of the knife, it literally says a blah 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 TM 14-degree angle on this knife. So it's like they've trademarked. I don't know if they've trademarked 14 degrees. That seems a little ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
That's a tough sell, man. That's a tough sell.
I don't know if it's like you're saying, it might be, hey, we have this field sharpener, we're calling it this, and it sharpens to this angle, so we have trademarked that thing, which then comes over to this thing. That makes more sense.
But
like
they've already got that in the works, and so they don't want anyone else to come out with it before they do.
Yeah.
Which might be jumping on the S45 train, being like S90, where it's still stable under the thin edge. And if they're jumping on S45 like it's going to be the new S30 or whatever, that might be clever as hell on all of a sudden we can push some limits. Mm-hmm. Although I still think 15 degrees, like an Asian angle for a Japanese knife, is still pushing S. We'll see.
Given PNW just jumped in here in chat and says it's called the Select Edge.
Yeah, I was just waiting and trying to jump in there, saying that I just pulled it up as well there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very.
Apparently, the Work Sharp sharpener on Blade HQ is $38 US. So
nice.
That's a damn good price. If you think that they're MSRPing for $60 on the Benchmade website.
Give or take. I was just thinking a smart-ass comment about the Buck Select series, and I'm wondering how they feel about using the Select name that's been trademarked.
It's the Select Edge is one word, so.
Select. Oh, okay.
And it is a really trademark. It's not like it's a patent or anything. It's just a trademark. So, yeah.
Like I said, that kind of says to me that they're going to have Select Edge other equipment if they're using that term and they're trying to trademark that term.
Can I select?
You wouldn't do it with one knife.
Can I select to have that edge on the custom knife maker on Benchmade's website?
That'd be sweet, actually. Do a griptilian and 14 degrees per side.
There's many steels, that I would put 14 degrees per side. Yeah. If they came out with a sharpening system that would be coherent with that.
Give me some M4
marker. Yeah.
That'd be cool. M4 was the first thing that came to my mind too. Am I the only one? Like, I want to see what that knife does. As much as Steve Ranella's done a great job of showing what it works like in the kitchen around bone with rib and everything else. But I want to see what that knife does in a feather sticking situation. I want to see that I can take it out and process an animal with it, but also set up camp. You know what I mean?
You're doing it wrong.
No, Dennis, you're turning into one of those hunters that needs to take 40 fucking knives with them.
There you go.
No, you choose to do that.
What I'm not suggesting that you're gonna baton firewood with it or anything else silly like that. But
with a trailing point
feather stick.
Well, exactly. Using the last inch or so of your blade, of the heel of your blade, to make a feather stick.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
I think you would be fine. I think you would probably be fine with that particular situation. But it depends on how bushcrafty, pushy you want to get it, because I don't think that knife's going to perform.
Just for those
exactly.
unfamiliar.
Ultimately, it is it's a flexible blade. It's a butcher's knife. It's not a bushcraft knife.
Mm-hmm.
But I just I'm curious to see how much I can do with it.
Using a fencing sword in a broadsword application. Like, that's the wrong. Like, it's full dude in armor comes up with one of these.
So,
like,
for the record, they're giving it a blade thickness of 2.28 millimeters. Like, it is thin.
That's pretty thin.
Right. That's the right answer.
That's I just, as far as cross applicability for different tasks, I don't know about it. Yeah.
I just know how much I like the way the knife looks already, and I want to carry it in an EDC situation. And carrying a fishing knife or a butcher's knife in EDC does just sound silly. So I wanted to do other things too.
I think the answer is that we need to go fishing more.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's application appropriate.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a couple episodes ago that one of the questions that we were talking about was, what's your most excited for blade for this year? And my answer was nothing yet, because I don't have anything in hand. Lies. That knife. I want the meat crafter.
Nice.
Like, it's gonna happen.
But you've got a little bit of a man crush on Steve Ranella. So
True. I want to help support him as well, sort of thing, is part of it for sure. But
yeah. And we all kind of do too, because he does.
But part of why I like it, and it's definitely part of my mentality of, I like things that are well thought out, and the R&D that they went into it, and like getting so specific. It was like 18 months of prototyping and change this a little bit or change that little bit, and it's like, I like well-made products. And
the fact that one of the like lanyard tube or whatever you want to call it on the back of the knife is as large as it is, so that you can put a small animal's limb in there and break bone to then like remove a knuckle from rabbit or whatever it is.
You're an animal.
I mean, a little bit. I think we all are. I think technically.
Yeah.
Zinc CDC is saying here that it looks like a fillet knife. He says first that it looks sick, and then oof, that looks like a fillet knife. The thing that I like about it is that it looks like a meat processing or fillet knife, but it also reminds me of the Sinkovich. It reminds me of the 452. That blade shape is not far off. You know what I mean? And I think we can all agree that I like Sinkovich designs.
You're seeing Jesus in the clouds on that one.
I'd say if it's got a trailing point, it honestly more reminds me of the Crossbones. Just
yeah,
a little bit more reminiscent of the Crossbones.
If we're just going to do a direct comparison.
And they both have kind of the same belly and the same upsweep.
Yeah.
But
it's just
the swedge on the back.
It's just the spine.
It reminds me. How about this? Since you're giving me shit for that,
just a little.
It reminds me of the Hussar. Does that work for you?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah. It's better than the 450. You just got a man crush on the 450 right now, so.
I've got a man crush on Sinkovich. Let's be honest.
I think 450 and Steve Ranella need to get married, and you two will just fucking be in heaven.
Dirty.
I wonder who would Steve do the food for that one or what?
Oh, the 450 is the wife in that situation, man.
There you go. Yeah, but Steve cooks at home.
Cooking is neither here nor there. Let's be honest.
Touche. Either way, it looks like it will be a fantastic knife. I don't know how well it will do at like taking a fillet off of a fish off the ribs and skinning it. I'm curious for it and in that situation. But I think as far as like opening up trout and pulling the guts out of it and things like that, it's going to excel in that kind of environment. putting a fish over the fire or wrapping it in tinfoil with some butter and green onions on the inside. I think it'll work good.
Yep.
Well, now you're just
No.
talking about delicious things.
I know. We need to go fishing.
That's the moral of the story here.
True facts.
More of the story. It's so light out. Let's go fishing.
It's minutes away from my house, so screw you guys. I'm going like.
It's minutes away from my house too. It's the same river.
Fine, I'll just drown trying to get the crawfish.
I'll catch them before they get to you. So,
Just a
What?
giant net.
All of them?
of course.
All of the fish.
Terrible.
Hey, look at that. That's new. We've got 10 people watching us right now.
Huzzah!
Hooray.
Indeed.
Greetings, new viewers.
You guys are terrible.
It is a first. We've had 8. 10 is,
Yeah.
10 is the.
We haven't double-digited it before? All right, cool.
I don't believe so. Not that I notice, anyways.
Mhm.
Well, I'm glad everyone joined us and enjoys our bullshitting between S30 and S45, and yeah, things to come for sure.
Cheers to that.
I want to go back to the siren for
Okay.
a second, or we do have questions as well, but for the siren for a second, I don't know if you can do it, but can you drop shut the lockback just for Joe to see? If you hold the back of the knife like we were talking about a couple weeks ago, this thing is stupid smooth.
Just
Stupid. And that's straight out the box. Out the box.
It's not as smooth on the deployment. It's nice and smooth like that. But because it is a lockback and there is spring pressure on the blade, you really do have to pop it to get it to open all the way. And obviously that didn't work.
I'm okay with that. Can you set one aside for me? And I'll buy one when I get to work.
It's right here.
Nice. Is that the
This is the one that we got.
Oh shit. Okay.
We had a gentleman come in today and pick up a couple 3 Spydercos. And yeah, we're running short.
Yeah, no, that blew me away.
Wow.
We were talking about backs and being hard to like swing closed and whatever. And because the back of that siren has enough swell on the back of the handle. Oh,
Don't
yeah, be
slice
careful.
your fingers.
Oh, that was nervous.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's
But no, if you look at like if Paul gets show the back of the handle, twist it sideways so you can see the swell of the palm. Yeah, it's enough that compared to a Delica or an Endura that's a little bit slimmer back there to grip, that's got a whole bunch of like teardrop for you to hold that you like.
you mean like back in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Really close.
So watch out for your fingers on this one.
Yeah.
But also impressing the crap out of me, Spyderco. Good for you guys.
Yeah.
On doing
I was
G10.
nervous about doing it because normally with a Benchmade, if you try and drop a knife shut with your hand like this, the tip of the blade will just catch you in the palm of your hand.
That's how you know you're alive, Paul. That's how you know you're alive.
Yeah, I'm not
I
doing that.
might have done that with my Presidio last week.
Oh no.
Because of the way that this thing swells, the handle comes down almost another 3/8 of an inch below it. So you
Nice.
can
Lots
actually,
of clearance.
yeah, like I can do that, and there's no chance of it catching me in the hand.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, just noticed that.
Yeah,
now.
I know Birdshot IV, Frankie and Bird or whatever. Bird actually, the bug outs get him all the time. I know my ballet gets me all the time. The mini H&K, I've learned how to not get me, but yeah.
The full
So-
size will catch you.
The which?
The full size H&K.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Not your
I
mini.
haven't done it with that one.
No.
I don't carry that one enough. Yeah. It's in my reserve bag. It's not in the main bag.
That's fair. It's a good reserve knife, that's for sure.
Mhm.
It would be taking the place of the D2 Griptilian with AWT scales.
Okay.
And I don't think it wins that battle just because I
No.
got the aftermarket AWT scales.
That's fair. Apparently, talking about it made the 2 extra people that came shy, so they left. So we're being watched by 8 people again.
Well, that's what happens when you try to chop your fingers off with a siren. You know,
People
they're like,
don't-
"Oh my goodness, we're gonna see people bleed live. We gotta get out of here."
Does it make
You know,
people
we-
more
we
nervous
never
if we
believe-
start pulling out
God.
cold steels and doing it?
No, Cold Steel's got a way better finger choil for
Oh, they
doing it
do.
than the Siren does. Yeah,
Absolutely, they do.
yeah. This Siren does not have a finger
You-
choil.
You can do it, but
Oh
I
my
wouldn't.
goodness.
Yeah.
It is-
The difference between you cutting yourself and not is less than millimeters. Like it's
Yeah,
so
real.
hair. Yeah.
So you mean that's
if it was
that's
a knife
what
that
I'll
you
be
carried
doing
every day
constantly.
for a while, you could probably get away with it, but
What's that,
you'd
sir?
probably get bit of who? Me? Or
You.
him? Me?
Continue on. No, you.
Yeah, just saying that if it was a knife that you carried all the time, you could probably get used to it and drop shot it like that. But you'd probably get bit a few times in the practice up to it.
Mhm.
And there's not a sharpening choil. It literally really goes from edge to back P, like bolster type of thing.
And
like
given what
it's-
given what the knife is used for, I could appreciate that. But
sharpening might be a little bit of a bitch because of that.
yeah,
But then as well, the difference between saving your finger and not saving your finger is literally non-existent because it's on the same level all the way across.
Mhm.
wow.
Yeah,
Dull, 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 sharp. Like,
yeah.
That's
There's
kind of
no
a-
step down at all. But I do like the fact that they did, like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Don't
You know, the thingy, that thingy right there.
the finger
The
choil?
plunge line.
The plunge.
Plunge line. Plunge line is the word I was looking for. I like the fact that they put it at an angle, which means that you can still get right into the heel of that knife without having to.
Up to the back of it. So as long as you're not ignoring the back of it, you should be okay for sure.
That's it.
We did dabble a couple weeks ago, actually, when we were talking about this knife, about how something with that much of a finger choil, I always think should have a flipper, but this knife doesn't have a flipper.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of place to hide it.
There's so I understand that it's a replica of the fixed blade, and that's why it's there.
Yeah.
It's
So
just so weird in the design.
So part of why I think they kept it that big is not only the slide up factor for the potential wet work, but how clean of a line that makes when it's closed as well.
It's in there with the Anthem in the same kind of category like that.
Yeah, it doesn't get into having like that sort of thing going on where it's got the corner cut out there.
Yeah. It's clean. It's clean.
Yeah. So I think that might have been part of the decision to keep the choil that big.
Yeah, between that and copying the fixed blade,
Mhm.
they're like, yeah, that works. It's a nice transition. There's no place to get caught in your pocket. You're not going to catch extra lint. Nobody wants extra lint.
No.
With it being a lockback flippers are oh so common as the knife world knows, right? So,
Yeah.
All of what, 2 manufacturers that make something like that? Like there's
Hey,
SOG
man,
and then Buck, I think.
don't bitch about the SOG Twitch, okay? And then although
I own that
those
knife,
new
by the way.
those new buck knives with like the whole thing that's like kind of that locks on the back of it.
It's like a pick lock,
It's
yeah.
kind of a lock. Yeah. I can't remember the name of that new buck knife, but that's actually kind of
Select Fire? Or am I thinking of the wrong one?
no. The Select Fires is a crappy buck knife.
The thing that I was going to say is when it comes to flippers, Spyderco is kind of notoriously bad at them. Outside of the smock, name another Spyderco flipper that people really liked.
The Southern.
Touche.
Yeah. Come on,
Name a
man.
third.
The Rubicon won Knife of the Year, regardless of how personal people felt about it. It still won some shit. So
Yeah, but didn't CRKT win?
Ooh, the dice.
Blade of the Year too?
no, they're paying off Blade Show. Let's be honest.
That was where I was going with that one.
But that's not Spyderco. Spyderco
Oh, I know.
still took it with the Rubicon.
No, I was just talking shit about CRKT. Sorry.
I understand. But you were saying about flippers from Spyderco, and there's some on the radar that even though we might not necessarily be fans of them,
They
the Southern had 204p, man.
I think the important thing there, though, is what you're saying. The Southern is a knife that somebody else designed for Spyderco. The Smock is another design that was designed by somebody else for Spyderco. It wasn't an in-house design. And that might be why they worked.
Maybe.
Was the dice?
What Spyderco flipper is an in-house design?
There was the...
Me neither. I don't think there is. I think they're all like...
Who made that titanium-bodied one that was...
The one that I was considering with M4, not the
Gail
Advocate.
Bradley. It's a Gail Bradley design.
No, no.
Advocate?
No, I'm thinking of a different one, a smaller one. I thought that was an Eric Glesser design.
And the Mantras.
The Mantra, that's what it was. That's an Eric Glesser, I'm pretty sure.
Which ones?
They had two Mantras. They had a skinny one that looked like a small titanium Southern.
The Mantra was the one that I really wanted. It wasn't it with the carbon fiber and the fighty knife with the deep finger choil.
No, Mantra was just titanium handles.
Okay, no, am I thinking the Mamba?
Mamba was the big stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
the big stupid one. It was dumb, but it was awesome. There's a reason why it's out of my collection.
Joe's trying to figure out who designed the Mantra.
It is Eric Glesser. It's a little hard to see in the official photo here, but you can see part of his signature sticking up.
Okay, just for the record, I didn't like either Mantra, and I got to handle them both. So.
Yeah, they weren't that nice of an action on them.
No, they were gritty. They were slow.
There you go. My point stands.
I don't know. This one,
only in-house one we know of.
That one is the only Mantra I played with on the shelf, and that one I thought broke in fairly nicely. It wasn't as good of an action as the Sinkovich, for instance, but it was close. It wasn't gritty.
One day Spyderco will learn how to do a ball bearing. I mean, they did with the Smock.
Yeah.
But somebody else did it for them.
And then isn't the Akuchi also ball bearing?
It sure is, yeah.
It is a ball bearing flipper.
And that's a fantastic action on that thing as well.
I really like that knife.
I'm still tempted by it.
It's my knife for throwing shade, okay? Just let me do it.
No!
Sorry, Spyderco. I still like your stuff, CRKT. Love you guys. But Eric is still a Muppet. We're never going to get sponsored by Spyderco, I'm sorry.
We're never going to get sponsored. Who are you kidding?
Kind of
that we talk
might be a bad taste in people's mouths if we get sponsored by a company whose knives we review. That's probably not for the best.
We just don't review those knives anymore. We'll review everybody else's.
Yeah,
that'll be a good sponsorship.
I just give it a 10 out of 10 every single time. What's the problem? Like, it's come on. Like, where's my check?
Yeah, exactly.
Look, if I get to sit on a giant pile of money while doing those reviews, just
all of a sudden you're like, that Mantra is so awesome.
You should buy one, even though they're discontinued, because there were problems with them.
Because they couldn't sell
me
them
a Mamba
when they made them.
I'll give them glowing reviews.
What was that?
What's that, Paul?
I said they can just send me a Mamba and I'll give them glowing reviews.
I do want to hold that knife. Yeah.
It's such a silly thing. It's right in that kind of tactical kind of realm, for sure.
In the land of like usable knives, Jesus Christ! Seriously.
I have a Frenzy in my collection.
I have a Pleroma in my collection, and it's more usable than.
Fair. That's fair. Should we get on to some of these questions that we asked? We only asked a few this week.
We probably should, yeah.
Yeah. So I was saying to Joe during the break that we got some decent answers to one question, and we got a bunch of Mr. Fisk answers to the other question, but none of the answers are actually from Mr. Fisk. So, indeed. The question was, what do you think the new Zero Tolerance 707 will look like? Given P&W's been in the chat all night, and he said pointy, which...
More than likely.
I hope so. There should be a point on it at some point.
So
I don't
it should
know,
be a
they're-
Warncliffe.
They're a little bit of a Warncliffe. If they just took it one step further, all of a sudden that point wouldn't even be there, man. It's just gone.
Yeah, that's a sheepfoot. Isn't that how you define them? C.S. Graves. I'm assuming C.S. Graves is in the U.S. because he's saying that that blade looks murdery, and I don't know exactly what I mean by he must be from the U.S., but I'm sticking with it. And then we've had Hoosier
peaceful Canadians up here. I mean,
yeah, and we've had Hoosier Knife Nut answer before, and apparently he doesn't like ZTs. I actually scrolled through a little bit of his Instagram feed after I got this response, and the only one that I saw in his feed was the green, CF Emerson. What is it? The 640.
yeah, no.
And he owned it for a little while, then sold it. But his response was that the knife is going to look like crap, which I disagree with inherently. Outside of that, Joe actually had a really good question for everybody, which was
what about our answers? Come on, man.
Right.
What do we think the 707 is going to look like?
Oh, Dennis, what do you think the 707 is going to look like?
I think it's going to be a bare knuckle.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that they're going to take the bare knuckle platform and stretch it out and put it into the ZT lineup. The Natrix and the Matrix and the 777 and the whatever is all in the same vein. So the fact that they're throwing another variation might be.
Yeah, it'll be a brother of this guy.
They should They should make it with Sanmai laminated steel and call it a knucker or what is it? Cover knuckle. Is knuckle cover better? Yeah.
Just keep the stream going, Joe.
No, I got it.
yeah, perfect.
Seems like I do that every week.
Or ZT doesn't name their knives. You said that earlier, and you were trying to name the knife or the name of the 022 or whatever. I'm like, it doesn't have a name. They don't.
Its name is the 022.
Yeah,
things like that. Like,
so easy to keep track of all these numbers.
Yeah. So, has anybody else been distracted by the fact that given PMW actually has stepped in here and said the bare knuckle is pointy? So,
ish.
Yeah. As far as answers to that question, it was the most.
I guess.
Yeah. But
depends on how pointy you're talking about.
Yeah. True enough. But I was actually, when I was looking today, trying to look at the bare knuckle, which we don't have on our shelves, but I was surprised by how much it looks like a dividend.
Yes, we do.
Is it moved over? It's moved over and behind the ZTs. Isn't it?
I don't know. I wasn't at work today. I'm just saying I know we're not out of stock on them.
And when I went to look up the part number, it was the dividend that I first saw. The dividend and the bare knuckle are not that far different.
Except for in number and shape and size and action.
overall shape, they're very similar. They're both kind of a Warncliffe-y kind of blade with a little bit of upsweep to look at them side by side.
Not a Warncliffe.
Side by side. I'm not saying they're identical by any stretch, but I'm saying
is not a Warncliffe. You're wrong on your blade shapes, my friend. Someone bring up the dividend. It's ridiculous.
Pull it up on your phone, Joe.
That's what I'm doing. Kershaw dividends.
I mean, it dips down, but it's not a Warncliffe, and it's not a sheep's foot. It might be. I don't even know what you would call it. It's like calling the proxy.
How about this? It's a modified Warncliffe, and now my statement is all-encompassing, and it can be anything.
Oh, you're a dick. You put the word modified, and you can just get away with murder.
That's exactly what I was saying. Yeah, it's like when you're describing color, and it's kind of a bluey greenish. It's the same equivalent.
But it's like calling the proxy a Warncliffe from Benchmade.
Proxy
We were talking about it the other
Kephart.
We were talking about it the other week. Is that a Warncliffe? Do people think that the dividend is a Warncliffe?
They can't.
It's
I'm
the
not
one on
saying,
the
like I
right.
said, I'm not saying that they're identical, but on a quick glance, it's not.
It's not far off, and they're both in-house designs. So okay.
Oh, you mean they're super derivative of everything Ken Onion has ever done for Kershaw? Is that what you're saying? Because
They are completely separate from Ken Ershaw. Ken Onion, how dare you?
yeah, I'm
There's not
I'm
enough
super
research to it.
convinced. I'm super convinced.
Okay, just for the record, Zing CDC says Blade HQ defines it as a Warncliffe. So
Look at that!
apparently I need to jump over to a different company.
Apparently, Blade HQ
I'm
is
not
wrong.
appreciated around here.
That's like saying That's like saying this is a Warncliffe. It's not. Like the blade comes out and then it flattens. There's no way
It's a
that's a
trailing
Warncliffe.
point Warncliffe.
No.
How about that?
No.
Neither of those are Warncliffes.
A reverse trailing point?
That's this.
That's the Spyderco Myrtle.
Oh my god.
God.
Can we talk about how disgusting that knife is?
Or not. Let's just try and forget about it.
Oh
There
my
you go.
god. Sure.
Given actually also says that the fact is just a needle, and Will to Survive is inclined to agree with that.
Just the
And
needle?
yeah, that's why the knife is
Pointy.
awesome.
That's what
Pointy.
this isn't
Yeah.
a fact.
You
but
talk about a pointy knife, that's pointy.
I don't have my fact, it's over there, but the inner Italian in me loves that knife. That's all I'm gonna say.
as does the outer Italian.
Do we have other answers for the 0707?
No,
Okay.
we got no actual answers to that question, other than pointy, apparently. Which
So I could be wrong about the
the
bare knuckle thing.
Yeah.
It could be a mini. It could be the size of a copper. They might go the other way, and they might go small because the copper
Yeah.
matrix was smaller than a 770 or a 777.
Yeah.
A ZT equivalent of the Natrix was the first thing that came to my mind, but I think the bare knuckle is a good answer in that respect.
A ZT equivalent of the Natrix is the 777.
Yeah.
Yes.
The copper matrix is smaller. The matrix is from a 777 or a 770.
No, I understand that, but maybe they just release a new one in a fancier. I guess it would still be called the 777. Never mind. I see what you're saying.
Some version of
Yeah.
I
I
but
wouldn't
the
say-
707, like
Just
I said,
adapt one.
the copper one is smaller than anything else in the ZT lineup. So they could go the opposite way. Instead of big, they could go small.
I don't.
Something blingy in the small platform as well. Right?
Something more akin to like the 609 in size, kind of, or even smaller.
Even smaller. They're like, have you haven't handled the copper matrix at all?
No, I have
Okay.
not.
No, they're like mini Griptilian size.
Okay, I dig
Like-
that actually.
Yeah. So even the 770 that Nigel has is, I would say, a half
Bigger.
size bigger than that. Yeah.
Yeah, like the copper one was like an awkward 3-finger for me, where this one's an awkward 4-finger.
And the 777 was the equivalent of
Nice.
an extra large matrix.
The name of Nigel's next sex tape.
Not quite 4 fingers. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Do we
Awkward 3.
do we need to take another break?
I just want to do a quick shout out to the fact that Will to Survive is thinking about modding his fact just like mine is, with like the distressed look. And I say go for it. It looks awesome. Just don't do it the way that the guy that did mine did mine.
I
Which is
thought
how-
he was going to say he was going to turn his fact into a modified Warncliffe.
No, don't do that. So basically, what was done with mine was that the guy got lazy with it and took it to a sander and just sanded off the tips of the points. Which, don't get me wrong, I got a great deal of that knife, and I'm not complaining. I think the knife looks wicked. But I think there's better ways to do that, even if you're doing it on sandpaper and doing it slowly, or like a Scotch-Brite pad or potentially, or something like that, that will remove the material from the points without actually removing aluminum.
Take the scales off. Take the scales off and tumble them.
And yeah, don't sand through the screws.
Mhm.
Put them in a milk jug with tumble beads or whatever type of thing, and throw your scales in.
Bits
and
of
shake it
gravel.
up.
Even just bits of
You know
gravel.
what-
Yeah.
What else would look really good, actually, is doing what Joe did with his tie light and just stripping the aluminum. And then potentially polishing that out and getting like a mirror polish on the aluminum.
I'd be interested to see what kind of, like, how that would look on the fact.
Paul, your Italian is showing.
No,
Not yet.
that'll happen.
It will after he uses sandpaper.
Clip that handle in a back alley, and
See, when you have your handle that polished, you blind somebody and then you get into the Canadian stabbing grid. That's the way that works. You gotta catch them. You gotta like flash them. Instead of carrying a flashlight with a strobe, you just flash them with your handle.
You better hope that there's some sort of reflective light in that back alley, because if it's pure black and you just like pull it out and nothing reflects off of it.
You don't think I have a system of where I pick and choose what back alleys to fight in? Like, come on.
Oh, I was going to say, that's why Paul carries a flashlight, is so he can shine it off of his knife.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Is what you do is you set up a flashlight on this side here. And
I love that.
You can even really confuse them and strobe at your handle and really get a good strobe effect going on.
And by confuse him, just like, he'll take a step back and be like, what the hell are you doing right now? Confusion. Yeah.
If you walked into a back alley and a guy was having a rave with his like stabby fact and a flashlight, you would leave, wouldn't you?
I might wait it out, see where this goes.
See who else.
The situation here.
See who else shows up.
There you go.
I mean, it might be really easy to rob you when you come down off of those drugs. Like you might play the long game on that one. Like it's.
You gotta catch me while I'm still in the clouds.
All right, are we taking another break here?
Oh, I was mostly joking before. We can keep going if you guys want.
Yeah, no, it's been about another 45 minutes already.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Come back and we'll answer the last question here.
For sure.
Sounds
I
good.
think this last question actually has some good answers. Will to Survive says back alley knife rave. Hashtag
back alley knife rave.
Yep.
That's going to be my next post when we're doing the Pokey Factor for sure. Fantastic.
I was just waiting for Nigel to stab himself in the hand with this fact right there. It's just.
We'll be right back.
We don't need